Well, thank you very much for having me again. It's been a pleasure to be here. Today, I'm going to focus on Argos, the machine actionable service that we provide in OpenAir. OpenAir is an infrastructure for open scholarly communication, open science in Europe. It's been operating for more than 10 years and supporting the European requirements for open science, open access, then moving on to open science. I am, as Roman already mentioned, I am the product manager of this service, and I work in Athena Research Center. My background is in library science and information systems, and also in public policy and public management. We saw from our keynote speaker a very good summary of around data management plans and the requirements that's around the writing of data management plans and the delivering them to funders and institutions. And here I wanted to start this presentation by providing you with a landscape of what's happening around DMPs in Europe. So there have been some reports after the last framework program. After each framework program, European Commission usually has some reports to assess what's happened and understand what are the gaps, so that they are more, the new policies that they launch are more effective, let's say. And one of those reports, it was showed that there is a need for, we can find DMPs, we can find a huge collection of DMPs from the Cordis portal, from the European Commission portal. We can, if we're working, for example, in a project that we want to assess, to get all DMPs programmatically and use them, in a workflow, whatever we want to do with them, we can do, but it's not entirely sure how we can reuse them, because those DMPs are kinds of deliverables. We can find them, but they have no indication of how they can be redistributed. No licenses, no access rights, no application of those kind of practices, let's say, that make it easier. Some of them, actually, it was identified that they also have copyright, so you cannot reuse them. In terms of the content of DMPs, you already addressed it in the Menti session before, and many other researchers agree with you that they are not entirely sure what kind of information they should provide, the level of detail that they should put into those DMPs, to understand the technicalities around how to make for data and how to address this in the DMP, and how to create it from scratch. So templates, as you mentioned, is a key here. There are challenges in exploiting DMPs if you want to understand what's happening, what is missing. It's difficult because DMPs so far have been produced as simple documents, simple Word documents, let's say. So we heard before from the previous presenter from DMP Online that this has been shifted, and now we are moving on to more to addressing interoperability also issues from for DMPs also. And yeah, this is important because we cannot at the moment, if we search and have this collection of DMPs, past DMPs, we cannot identify easier in an easy way the individual data set that is described in a single DMP. DMPs provide information for many data sets, right? So you go and write and describe the full collection of data sets that you have produced throughout the project, but it's difficult to identify individual information per data set. And also, some of those DMPs are, a minority of them are published, and if they're published, it might not be difficult to get them in a nice query, because the resource type under which they are published is sometimes not the correct one. There has been some research and some suggestions been made by the Science Europe. Science Europe is a European consortium of funders. One of the things that they also suggest is, apart from having a template that is generic, like the one provided by the European Commission, like the Horizon Europe one, which is meant to be used by all disciplines and for all different research areas and products and stuff like that. It's good if you take it and you modify it to tailor it, let's say, to fit your needs in your community, in your domain. So those more, let's say, tailored DMPs are called domain data protocols, and it's a nice suggestion. And people are also in the Research Data Alliance and other global, let's say, research data communities are trying to are working around those domain-specific applications and paradigms. In terms of reusability, we see that the DMPs. So one of the let's say core things that the open science and fair data management and all those principles and new standards that address or that they see as a final outcome is to be able to reuse and reproduce science, right? This is the final outcome. This is where we want to go, to increase reproducibility and reusability of data. And it would be nice if DMPs could also support this, could also show which data sets are reused and which are newly described in the DMP. And from this report here, you see that it's now difficult to understand from reading or let's say programmatically getting a DMP, which data sets are reused inside the DMP and which are not. And of course, those of you that have already seen the Horizon Europe template, you know that one of the things under interoperability, one of the things that is mentioned is qualified references. So include references from different outputs that are linked to the research project, not only for the data, but also those data sets, if they are supported by an analysis tool, or you've written code that supports some processes. These all things, all the publications that you have published, the papers that you have published, that validate that these data sets that you describe here, they validate those papers. This all information should be included and linked to each other. So different outputs should link to each other. And for data sharing, it's again, it's difficult. Here you can see the guidelines. This is from the Horizon Europe guidelines, right? The AGA, and you can find under the open science practices and how you can follow them. Under research data management in particular, you have to deposit the DMP as soon as possible. And you have to deposit also the data along that you describe in this DMP, right? So data sharing is key in open science. So how Argos contributes to all that? First of all, our motivation is we see DMPs as outputs. We see them as outputs that can be treated and applied to the FAIR principles as all other outputs, right? So at the end, they are fair and they serve the purpose of being able to be merged with other outputs, similar outputs, and contextualize and do different kinds with them. They are auto-generated and provide validation from authoritative sources, and they are also the focal point for qualified references to be realized. So Argos, I don't think we talked about it. There is the European Open Science Cloud. Some of you might have heard it, might be familiar, some of you might not. The European Open Science Cloud is a huge initiative by the European Commission to realize the policies that they bring out for open science. And what this EOSC, let's say in short, does is bring all the stakeholders together and bring all the services and expertise and data so that it creates, let's say, a framework and a place where you can find all information that is about data. They call it also the web of fair services and fair data. The vision is that it will become as the Google for science, but that's the vision, and we have just started building the EOSC. But Argos is part of the EOSC, so Argos is an EOSC resource. It's in you can find it under the EOSC portal, which is the search engine, let's say, of EOSC. And Argos is an open source tool. It's based on an open source software. It's called OpenDMP. It's configurable, extensible. You can find it and have your own instance in your institution if you feel like it, and also create your templates to meet your needs and satisfy your data management policies. You can find it at argos.opener.eu. Has a hugely rapidly growing user base, more than 2,500 at the moment, and the main users are researchers and research projects, funders, research communities, and institutions. It's of course free to use for your research activities, but it comes with a cost, as the previous speaker said, comes with a cost if we want to have ad hoc installations. In the EOSC sphere, we are all users, and Argos is for all EOSC users, either those directly involved in research data management or indirectly, and either as end users or admins of the system. Argos is not just a tool, it unlocks different angles. It is meant for all outputs, data, software, workflows. I mean, we call it data management plan, but also the European Commission, since this is the example that I'm providing in this presentation, also the European Commission, although they label it as data management plan, they require you to describe software also, or workflows or other outputs. So Argos is for all outputs, for all disciplines, and you can connect, because we connect with many services of the OpenAir ecosystem, right? We are an open service, so we connect with other services like repositories, like monitoring systems, search engines, and so on. So you can benefit from that and automations on that manner. And here is just to show that you can have more than, you can describe many different outputs. You can describe data that are used, data that are new, other outputs, software, and you can have a single DMP with a bundle of all these different descriptions of outputs that are easily exploitable. Here is here you see on the right, you see how a DMP looks like, what is the information that it comes with, let's say, or that it's exposed to repositories. So I told you that we treat DMPs as outputs, and they are fair outputs because they are discoverable through OpenAir Explorer, which is, I'll show you in a minute in the demo what it is and what it does. It's a search engine. It is accessible because it comes with a PID, it comes with a DOI, the DMP itself. It's interoperable because it has DMP, it has standards, it applies standards for that matter. And there is the Rich Data Alliance standard that we have applied for that. It is reusable. Your DMP will be reusable because you will have provided a license based on how you want others to reuse it. It is versioned both before its publication and after, so throughout the whole life cycle. And it's published and preserved in Zenodo, which is Zenodo. I think it was a question by someone in the audience. So Zenodo is a generic repository where you can deposit all kinds of outputs, mostly data sets and publications, but also all sorts of research-related outputs. And here you can see where we are. OpenAir, maybe I should have prepared something about OpenAir as well, but OpenAir is a huge infrastructure, as I said. We are part of it. Argos is part of it. OpenAir comes with, gets information, harvests information from more than, let's say, I don't remember, more than 50,000, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's more, yeah, more than 50,000, let's say, resources globally, research resources from journals, from publishers and directories, registries. It contextualizes, it duplicates and collects them, and at the end provides this huge graph of how research is at this moment that we're talking. So here you can see this graph, you can see the organizations involved, the communities, the funders, the funding, and there are links between them. So you can at any point go and trace what's happening, which project is generating what, which product has links with other, and so on. And here is where Argos enters this research graph as a single entity, and also gets to become part of this graph and provide links with other outputs as well. We wanted to, so we have that, and because Zenodo is also part of the OpenAir ecosystem, we wanted to provide some integrations that help you as researchers to automate some processes, like this one, like the writing process. So if you search, currently what you can do through Argos is if you search, you can search the whole Zenodo database. You can select, so if you have something already, if you want to reuse your own data set that you have published in Zenodo, you can search it and you can directly add it to your DMP and pre-fill some of the questions that are associated in the template, and provided those kind of information are provided as answers in the template that we are working on. So you don't have to manually do it again. And here is how it works. This is the pop-up that you use in the demo. You search the database, you find it, you find the data set or the software, whatever output, and immediately you have some of this information like the repository, the access rights, the license of this data set, this output, you have them pre-filled. So one thing is that. Another thing is that you don't have to go out, leave the Argos tool and go to a repository to deposit if you want your DMP. We do it from the Argos workflow. So while you create your DMP, we get this information that we need, the Zenodo needs, so that we immediately, if you click deposit, we immediately provide create this metadata record that Zenodo needs, as you would do if you were to log in Zenodo and upload and type in all this information by yourself. So this is the information that we get. from the DMP, finalize the DMP, and once it's finalized, you can deposit it. And immediately you have this on Zenodo. This is the Zenodo. If you're an admin, and I have only one slide for this because maybe someone is interested. If you're an admin, you can do many things. You can benefit from the APIs that we have. We have a huge collection of APIs from all the sources that we harvest and they duplicate. We have easy to use interface. You can drag and drop questions, change their ordering. You can benefit from different input types like Boolean, create your template as you wish, Boolean upload, customize APIs if you want, multiple choice, etc. And overall, also make your DMP machine actionable by controlling semantics and RDA compatibility. Takeaway, because I know that this is a lot of information, I'm spamming you now. So takeaway is Argos prepares us all for the Horizon Europe DMP requirements. And if you have it in your organization, also the template for that is there, so it prepares you for your institution as well. Argos simplifies the administrative processes and connects with your university workflows, and it enables research communities to create profiles and tailored domain community standards and practices. We have community calls that we launch every last Wednesday of the month at 2 Central European time. And the first one is the next week, so we will be happy to have you there if you could join us and hear about you, what are the things that you don't find that we're, you don't like, or things that you would like to see, and in overall just discuss around fair DMPs and Argos. Now I'm going to show you how this all looks in practice. So if you log into argos.eu, this is what you see. There is an about page. You can see how it works. You can also find some things that no one knows, but the history, let's say, behind naming these two Argos. You can see how the life cycle, how the workflows are inside Argos. You can also see how it connects in the OpenAir ecosystem and with all the different things inside the research graph and so on, and learn more. You can see the roadmap that we have. Oops, sorry. You can check the FAQs, see who are the contributors. We're lucky enough to have some experts inside, some national open science experts inside the OpenAir network, and they were kind enough to provide the translation and localization of this tool, so that some researchers that do not feel comfortable in using a tool in the English language can see it also in different languages. Here are some of those that we support. You can find resources, like if you want to use Argos logo, you can find it here. If you want to check more things like user guide, fact sheet, all kind of things, presentations, and we have them. No. And of course, you can search, see how we connect to EOS and all those kind of things. I can enter the tool either by starting my DMP from this button, or from logging in from here. I can, let's say that I log in, it's the same thing. And here you see the different providers that we support for logging in. It's through OpenAir, through ORCID, if you have an ORCID account, through URED account, Google, or Twitter. And let's say that I want to go through OpenAir. OpenAir also allows me to log into my institution if I want to, through EduGain, right? And I can find my institution. Oops. And I can use that. Because I have prepared something, I'll use my Google. And this is what you see when you enter as a user. On your left, you see the panel of different functions. Like here, you can see your dashboards of DMPs and of data set descriptions that are associated with your DMPs, because you can reuse the different descriptions in different DMPs. So you can build DMPs by reusing different descriptions from datasets, from software, and yeah, so you can find those here. You can see if some of the researchers have allowed for a public consultation, let's say of their DMPs, if they have them available in Argos publicly, you can also consult them here, and also those associated data sets. These are only for admins, because I am an admin here. You see them, but please just don't pay attention to them. So let's go to home. Here you can see there is the main button, Start New DMP, and there is another button, Add Dataset. So if at any point of the research project I have a new dataset, or a new dataset basically that I want to describe, I click this and quickly find the DMP that I want to add this dataset description under and move there. Yeah, I can change my profile settings, but I'm not. These are basic things that, to be honest, I'm not doing in any system nowadays. But you can go and synchronize other accounts, link other accounts under this, and so on. I'm going to start my DMP. I will click. Sorry, here is the latest activity. I thought that this. That was self-explanatory. But here's the latest activities. You can see what you've done lately in your personal studio. So I'll start my DMP, a new DMP. I can import from files. So if, for example, DMP Online I can get an export from DMP Online in JSON that is compatible to RDA specifications, then I can be able to, not me, Argos will be able to read it and also have it imported in this in our database. But I'm not going to do that now, so I'll start a new DMP. Start it from scratch. We use color coding. Green is to understand that we're viewing the whole DMP, right, in its whole in its single form. But you will see in a minute we have another color coding, which is yellow, and yellow is to understand that we are now editing data sets or software or outputs in general, and we're not viewing the whole DMP. So starting my DMP, okay, I provided a title to my DMP. I can provide a description to my DMP. I can add the researchers that are going to work with me on this DMP. So I can find them through the ORCID directory. Right, I find me. And I can also search now. I can also search with the ORCID number if I know it to be sure. For example, we have some colleagues in Spain and Portugal. They have some similar names, and the ORCID really helps to search by their ORCID number. I can add more people, of course. Oops, I misspelled it. Okay, and if I work with a colleague that doesn't have an ORCID, I should suggest that they have. I should let them know that it's a good practice to have. But if they don't have, I can insert a new researcher, adding, for example, if they have researcher ID, they can add another ID here and add their information as we see in the pop-up. I can also specify the organization, and this comes from OpenAir APIs. As I mentioned before, I can do the Okay. And if I invite other people to join me in writing this DMP, I can also change who will be the main contact for this DMP. So for now, I haven't done that, so I'm the only one, but I can, if I did, a list would appear with all the possible co-owners, and I could select who will be the contact person for this particular DMP. I can add the organization by searching for the funding organization by searching this database from OpenAir, European Commission, for example. And by doing this, now we have, you will be able to search all the Cordis database from here. So search your European Commission. Let's say that I want this. So search all the database with all different European Commission funded projects. Project is something, is a distinct activity inside a project. So for example, if you have an open call that you want to specifically create a data management for, maybe data management plan for, you can also write that this is an activity for an open call. Oops. Let's say that for now I'm going to I can provide the license to my DMP, right? And I want to have the Creative Commons, but I could have other types as well. Here. I want Creative Commons, and I can select the access rights. So how I want the DMP to be deposited in open access or restricted because there's an embargo. And let's say open access for now. Here I can select the template that I want from the database. Let's say that I want the, you can see different things here. I want the Horizon, oops, Horizon Europe. Save and add redirected me to the editor that I was mentioning before, the yellow, which is the editor for the outputs. So this is where you can distinctly add information for per output that you want to describe in DMP. I can do it by adding this, by starting blank, totally blank, or I can prefill it. Starting blank in a blank space, it's not that I start from scratch, I start just from the plain structure, let's say, that Argos comes with. Like here, I can add the data set name, description of this data set that I am adding in the DMP. I can have different, say, tags, and I can select the template that I want the DMP to have. When creating the DMP, I have the possibility to create a DMP with multiple templates, because I may have a template that is for archaeological data, for example. I might have a template that is for life sciences data, and maybe I want to combine all this in a single DMP. So at the beginning, at the previous step that I showed before, you are able to select the different kinds of templates that you want, and then you know, move around them when you create the descriptions per output here in this step. So I click Horizon Europe, and I see that when I clicked it, the whole content of this template became available for me to start writing it. You see that there are instructions under each question. There are some questions that are lists that we created. There are some questions that are like different buttons you can choose. Oops, sorry. There are, here you can specify if you're generating or reusing this output, and this information is kept in Argos so that it knows This is a reused output. You can find also different open-ended questions here. You see, this is, I don't think I have to say too much about this. And you can also find information, questions, sorry, that come from our API list, such as this, for example. In which repository will the dataset be deposited? So this one, for example, that I'm now describing, I wanted to go to the I could do the same for different types of output, like the metadata. I could search by API, the vocabularies I could search by API, and yeah, like here, right? And I can save it. If I want to add a new data set, I can do it by clicking save and add new, or I can go back. Overall, I can go back, review what I did. Go back to my DMP, add a new data set from this, where the whole DMP information is kept, or go to my page, latest activity. Here is the data set, here is the DMP, my DMP. Again, I can see from my dashboard, this was the DMP, this was the data set, and I can add data set from here. I can also invite people from here to join me, start new version if I want, at any time. Let's say that I want to add a data set, and I'm now mindful of the time. I want now to pre-fill it because I know that a data set exists, or I have already uploaded it somewhere, posted it on Zenodo. I want to pre-fill it, and this data set is, let me find it, this one. So I'm in Zenodo. I found my data set. I'm pasting it here. Yep, next. And now I don't have to go into writing this again. This is kept. What Zenodo has is brought here, and I can also see from the summary. Find it. Yeah, it's specified what is the PID system that this dataset uses, where this dataset is located, how it's shared. Is it openly shared? Yes, it's open. It's an open license. And again, what is the license and all this information, right? So this information is pre-filled. I can save it. Go back, for example. You can add more. And then I want to finalize it. So I'm now going to move tabs to show you how to finalize it. So here, I had prepared something with only one data set. In order to finalize something, all the mandatory fields need to be completed. So that's why I couldn't do it before, and I came to the one that I had prepared for this demo. So here, all the fields, the mandatory fields are done. I can finalize it, right? Yes, I want to finalize it with the data set. If I had more data sets, I could click only the data set that I want to finalize, because some might be restricted and I wouldn't like to push it to Zenodo. So I could unclick it. It was restricted. Submit. And there you have it. Now you see a new feature, deposit. If I want to change something, I could undo the finalization, but once I deposit it, I cannot undo. Once I deposit it, I start with a new version, right? I cannot undo what's published. So deposit, it asks me if I want, so here I'm using a test instance of ours, not the Argos, as you can see from the URL. And this is why some things are different. In Argos, you will be able to view two options here. If you want to proceed deposit with your own account on Zenodo, or if you want to create a new one, you have to go to log into Zenodo. And by logging in, you immediately have the metadata record there under your name, under your name, or use a token from Argos account on Zenodo, and you won't have to worry about creating a new account on Zenodo. So here I will use mine. And voila. We have the record ID, and if I click, I can also view it. And I think that's from me. Thank you very much. And I'm really happy to get questions from you.